Let's get one thing straight. If you're just starting out as a game master or thinking about becoming one, you've already taken the hardest step, just starting. A majority of people that want to start learning something new give up before they even begin, or they put it off forever and never actually start. But the fact that you're here means that you're ready, or at least curious on how to start your journey. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna guide you on your journey from where you are right now to becoming a great game master. Now, this is real advice from a real person that really just wants you to be the best version of yourself in regards to game mastery. So in this video, I'm going to cover all major misconceptions and mind blocks that people have, which either prevent people from starting or lead people to quit very early on. If you're wanting to get to the good stuff and want to learn about mechanics and story building, I promise those things are available, but I still ask that you watch this video in its entirety first, because I have seen so many games, so many game masters stop completely on their journey and never picking it up again because either one or more of these things. And I don't want this to happen to anyone, least of all you, so I really hope that this video will be immensely helpful for you and everyone that has an interest in becoming a game master. As for who I am, my name is Paladin. I've been a GM for 11 years. I've been doing it professionally for 2 now. And during that time, I have led and breaking a world record, playing for 440 and a half hours straight back in 2022. I am self-published. I create adventures and supplements. I run the West Marches. I also stream and make content, and I'm also here to give you some good advice on how to be a game master. Let's start with perfectionism. So what is it? Having very high standards and being overly critical of oneself, which demands an extremely high level of performance. It's based on mostly 2 things: having high standards and fear of failure. Let's start with the high standards one. Early in my game mastering career, I had a huge problem with running the best content possible. I would teach myself skills like map making, ambience, story crafting, and the more I learned, the higher the expectations of myself and the games I would run would go. And so this would be a constant loop. And so you can realize that there's a problem with that. Eventually, amount of time that I would have to invest in order to make something would go up and go up and go up, and would be unsustainable. So there would be weeks where I would cancel sessions because I was not ready yet, and I often found myself stuck or unable to move forward. It would take me so long to make one thing, and then it was then that I realized it takes an extraordinary amount of time to make something exceptional, truly a soul-crushing amount of time. And I was pushing myself to do that week after week after week, and this is something that I see frequently in new game masters, is wanting to run a really great game and pushing themselves beyond their current limits to run this extremely high quality game that is self-made with world plot, NPCs, monsters, and then realize how much work it is and then give up. So they'll get stuck in the planning phase and either give up, or they'll run session 1 after preparing a lot of stuff, see how much work there is to do for next time, and then bottom out and then stop running sessions afterward. It's truly an unsustainable amount of work that will quickly burn anyone out. And this situation is entirely very bad, and neither is it one that has to happen in order to make the game great. So here's what I learned. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. The more I tried to be perfect, the more I found myself stuck, unable to move forward. Instead of focusing on refining others' core skills or learning something new to enhance my games, I would get so caught up on the fine details to the point that I sometimes would cancel games. It wasn't until nearing burnout that I said I would just run games no matter where they were at, just without all the extra high quality stuff, and my players ended up having more fun, and so did I. And so the game isn't the maps, it's not the VTT, it's not the mechanics. The game is the experience between the players and the game masters, which means all the extra stuff that companies or D&D shows make us feel we need, like maps, tokens, a whole plot, etc., really aren't needed, and really they might enhance the experience some, but they aren't needed in order to play the game, and they're definitely not needed to have a great game. I mean, they might help a little bit, towards establishing your game, but they don't focus at all on the experience of the table, right? Because the experience is what you have between yourself and the players coming together. Games become much higher quality when you focus more on the experience and the relationships that people have. And it often has nothing to do with the maps, nothing to do with the VTT. And all these other things that GMs think they need, really aren't needed in order to make a great game. Not only that, but I realized that most of the stress I was having was caused by me, myself. I self-imposed standards that no one but me was maintaining to myself. And so having high standards isn't bad, but having unreasonable expectations is. You can't fit 26 hours in a day, right? It's just not possible. But yet that's what I was expecting for myself. And so I think that we need to be very real with what it is that we're capable of. And yes, we do want to build. Yes, we do want to grow, and we do want to get better. But we have to give ourselves room and space and time to get there. And it's unreasonable to ask more from someone than what they're able to give. So then why is it that we do this to ourselves, right? Why is it that we push ourselves to do so much? And I think that this also has a factor in it, which is the second thing, fear of failure. I remember the first time I thought about becoming a dungeon master. I was excited, sure. Yeah, I was really excited, but I also was terrified. I spent endless nights poring over rule books, trying to craft the perfect story, obsessing over every little detail. I was so caught up in the pursuit of perfectionism that I almost didn't start at all. I kept thinking, what if I get something wrong? Well, what if my players don't have fun? I almost talked myself out of DMing entirely, but I'm glad that I didn't. The more I tried to perfect in my knowledge of the game and my skills, the more I was feeding into and reacting to the idea that I need to learn more or else I'll fail and will give people a bad game and people will not have fun playing at my games and no one will want to play with me. It's truly a very catastrophic way of thinking, but this is something that really does build up in our minds. And that fear will never go away, no matter how much I tried to learn or no matter how much I tried to teach myself. And I think that one thing to learn from that is the way that we look at that fear or the way that we react to that fear will largely define how our actions are going to be and also what we can expect from ourselves and what people can expect from us. And so being afraid is absolutely 100% okay. I think that it means you care about the outcomes and you're just unsure if you're good enough to succeed. The key to getting past that feeling, do it before you're ready. Expect to fail gloriously. You're never going to be in the perfect situation. You're never going to have 100% of everything ready. So if it's never going to happen, then why try to aim towards that, right? It's just not realistic. And so one thing that many people struggle with, and one thing that I hear constantly, I hear people saying that failure is the opposite of success, but it couldn't be any more false. Failure is part of success, not the opposite. It's part of it. We've been conditioned as a society to fear failure, to see it as a sign of weakness or inadequacy. But the truth is that failure is one of the most powerful tools for growth that you'll ever encounter. When I first started as a dungeon master, I made mistakes, a lot of them. So there were times when I felt like I completely botched the session or made a wrong call, but each of these moments was an opportunity to learn, to get better, to refine my craft. The road to mastery truly was paved with failures, and each one was a stepping stone to something greater, just me becoming a better person. And no one can take that away from me. If you're afraid of failing, it's essentially the same thing as saying that you're afraid of learning. Don't be. Embrace failure. Learn to see it for what it is. It's a temporary setback and a chance to learn, to grow and become better. Every time you fall, you can get back up stronger, wiser, more resilient. Success is not a straight line. It's more like a series of ups and downs, trials and wins and losses. And the only true failure is giving up. So give yourself permission to fail. And if you do fail, great, do it gloriously. Completely take your wind on it and then kneel into it and fail spectacularly. And then people will think you're a little bit weird, but also be attracted to you as well because you will exuberate confidence at that point. So what happened with me is that one day I really did decide to just stop trying to create the most perfect adventure. And I was nearing burnout at that point. And I said I was going to stop preparing an unreasonable amount of content to such a high quality for all of my games. And guess what? My games weren't up to my standards whenever I ran them. But what we ended up having was more fun anyways. My players didn't care about all the little mistakes. They didn't care about all the little details. They cared about the story and the adventure and the experience we were having together. And that's when I learned that being a dungeon master isn't about knowing everything or getting every detail right. It's about creating a space where people can come together, have fun, and share in something special. And that's really what game mastering is about, or really just playing D&D. Let's shatter a myth right now. The idea that dungeon mastering is too hard. I think that it's easy to look at the mountains of rules, the prep work, the responsibility, and think, this is beyond me. Listen, the mind is a powerful thing, and it's incredibly good at creating obstacles that don't actually exist. We build up these mountains in our minds, convincing ourselves that the challenges ahead are insurmountable. But here's the reality. The hardest barriers are often the ones we build ourselves. I have seen many times in newer game masters the thought that they need to be experts before they even begin. But that is faulty thinking because in order to become an expert, you need to begin first. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The key is to start even if you start small. Every master was once a beginner who refused to give up. myself included. And I made a lot of mistakes, and that's okay. The difficulty you're imagining and the feeling is only as real as you make it to be. And sometimes the real challenge is getting out of your own way to allow yourself to dive in. So how really do you break through? Like, by taking action, refusing to let fear paralyze you, by understanding that progress isn't about being perfect from the start. It's about showing up, trying, and learning as you go. But you'll never know your true potential until you push yourself beyond what you believe your limits are, and then allowing yourself just go through it and see where you go, and then learn and grow. But really though, how do you actually start this journey without getting overwhelmed? I think that the best advice I can give is to start simple, but start. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to have an epic, sprawling campaign ready to go. All you need is a small, manageable adventure and the willingness to give it a shot. When I say start simple, I mean it. I mean, pick a short, speed-written adventure that's designed for beginners, such as Dragons of Icefire Peak, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, Mines of Pendelver. All of these are great adventures that provide a good start, and they're short, so that way you can practice what it is that game mastering is about without having to worry about any of those external things for you to make. So these are your training wheels. They give you structure and guidance while allowing you to focus on learning the basics. Simplicity isn't about limitation, it's a foundation. And so by starting with something straightforward, you give yourself the space to learn, to make mistakes, and to grow without feeling overwhelmed. As you get more comfortable, you can start adding your own flair and your own creativity. But remember, the journey to greatness isn't done over one night. It's made of many thousands of hours and years of practice. Don't try to climb the mountain all at once. Take it one step at a time, and before you know it, we'll be halfway there. The next thing is to know that every rule in the rule book is optional. Yep, that's right. You have the freedom to use, ignore, or modify the rules as you see fit. See, the rule book is a tool, not a set of rigid guidelines that you must follow to the letter. You really don't. And when you're just starting out, don't worry about mastering knowing every single rule, because you're not going to use every single rule at every single game. Just focus on the basics, the things that'll make the game fun and actually keep it engaging and going forward, such as how to make an ability check, what is a d20, what is a pass or a fail, and what is a saving throw versus a skill check. As you gain experience, you'll naturally pick up more of the rules and start to understand how they fit into your game. As you go forward in running games, you'll get a little bit more refined. You also get a little bit more practice on what it is that you have to do for your games. So I promise that the hard things do get easier. You will become a lot more honed in on what to do, or how to do flow, or how to do a certain scenario, or what not to do. The confidence in your skills doesn't come from sitting on the sidelines. It comes from getting in the game. Confidence is built through action. The more you do, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more confident you become. It's a cycle. So when you take action, even if you're not sure what you're doing, what you're really telling yourself is that you believe in your ability to figure it out. And that's a very powerful statement. You don't need to be confident to start, but you do need to start, be confident. And I've seen so many people get stuck in the planning phase, convinced they need to know everything before they even begin. But here's the truth, you'll never know everything, and that is okay. The best way to learn is by doing. Every time you run a session, every time you make a decision, every time you try something new, you're building that confidence brick by brick by brick. And confidence isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing it anyways. It's about trusting yourself enough to take the leap, knowing that you'll learn how to fly on the way down, and being okay with hitting the ground hard sometimes if you can't, and getting up and walking it off, right? The most important rule with any game is to have fun. That's what games are for. Games are meant for a way for us to connect with other people and have fun. If a rule isn't working for your group, change it. If something isn't working for your group, change it. If the map doesn't work, change it. You could change and add whatever you want. You could simplify, you can make things more complicated. The game and the world is yours to shape and mold into something that works for you and your players. So if you're on the fence about becoming a game master, or if you're just starting out, I want you to remember this. You've already taken the hardest step, and plus you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. You've shown up, you're curious, and you're ready to learn. The rest is just a matter of taking action and taking one step at a time. Start simple, focus on the basics, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every game master started where you are right now. A little bit of curiosity, a lot of determination, but very excited and eager to move forward. And if you ever feel stuck or unsure, just remember that you're not alone. There are a ton of people in the community who feel the same way and who support you and have been through that same feeling, including myself. So I promise you it's going to be fine. So go ahead, take the leap, start your journey as a game master. You've got this. I believe in you. And I will see you in the next video where I will start to break down how to build your world and how to run a game. I'll see you in the next video.